Hey everyone, it's me again, Jan. It's been a hot minute and I'm here with another tutorial. This one involves my oscilloscope template that kind of gives a walkthrough on like how to use it and a couple fun things you can do with it. So let's jump in. I have After Effects open up here and I'm gonna go ahead and open my oscilloscope template. You'll see we'll go into the screen view. You do all your editing though on the ray input for the most part. Notice that this says do not render. I'd like to remind everyone, don't render this. It's like 900 frames a second and your computer will probably explode. All right, so there's two layers here in the do not render comp. The ray generator is essentially the thing that draws the ray versus the input is where we essentially inputs our settings for our oscilloscope, which involves frequency, amplitude, and the phase. First, I'm going to go over how to use this quickly as a visualizer, just for having the animations move to sound. So the first thing to note is that the ray input comp is 11% slower than the screen render. This is to get more time resolution out of the input comp. Basically, you have to go here to time on your audio track that you want it to follow, and you want to time stretch that. And since this one's 11% slower, you have to do the inverse of 11%, 909%. Hit OK, and that will stretch out your track. And if you need more space, you can extend the composition. But for now, this is fine. Then we want to also, once again, right-click on our audio track and then go to our keyframe assistant and convert the audio to keyframes. And this will take a second because it's analyzing for basically 1,000 frames a second. All right, now we have our audio amplitude in keyframes. If we twirl this down, should be able to look here, we have left, right, and both channels. Then go to our input and twirl that down. And we'll do our amplitude sliders here. We're gonna alt click on the stopwatch and then do each channel, one for X. We'll do X for the left channel. Go ahead and just copy this, put it on the other channel, and just change this to right channel. Okay, and we might want to add a multiplier on here just because the audio amplitude only goes up to like 40-ish. Multiply that by 10. As the music song plays, we should see it bounce around to the audio. So there you have a basic visualizer, and if you render it out, it will look like this. Alright, so that's how you use it as a visualizer, and now we're going to go look at how we can create types of patterns and waves. Alright, so we can just hit U, that'll pull up all of those. There's already a keyframe on each. I would just go ahead and shut those all off. So what you can do, you can obviously keyframe different frequencies and things to move the thing around manually and draw whatever you want essentially using frequency or amplitude and phase. There's a couple of cool things that you can generally do. You can always do the basic listen to patterns, like say we have 1 and 1 here. We will end up with a circle and our amplitude is 1. We want to set that to something like 50, and that's going to bring the amplitude up and the circle will get bigger. So that's just 1 to 1. You can do different ratios, will get you different patterns. So like 1 to 2 will get you a parabola. 3 will get you the beginnings of listen to patterns. And you can even do like 2 to 3 and get a different pattern. You can try all sorts of different ratios and you'll get different patterns. 10 to like 11. You'll get a pattern that represents that, and you of course can adjust the size with the amplitude. You can stretch it that way with the X amplitude, you can stretch it this way with the Y amplitude. And then you can kind of go over to screen and it'll render out what that would look like over here with all the glow and things that make it look nice. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to set a frequency X to 1 and a frequency Y to 0. And I'm gonna set my amplitude to 50. Actually, I'm gonna set it to 100 and 100 because that's like pretty much full width. And then we're gonna change our phase here to 90 and negative 90. So that'll put the phase, it'll start at the beginning, because if you start the phase at 0, it's gonna start in the middle. So what we're gonna be adjusting is the amp. So I'm gonna actually set this to 50. So on amp Y, we're gonna take our initial value here, and we're gonna convert that to a variable var amp equals value. So we're also gonna grab a time, create a time variable that equals time. Say if we just combine amp times time, we'll get an increase over time, or a change in the amplitude over time. But that's not super interesting because it just keeps going up, 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 and out of the screen. So we need to create some equations that cause it to oscillate back and forth. So the simplest thing we can add to here is just math, JavaScript math, sine, with just adding time in there, and then we'll add the amp back in so it has that multiplier on it. Then what we're gonna see is it's gonna bounce up and down because that sinus wave is moving it up and down. So right now it's not happening very frequently. It's going only back every few seconds. So we might want to increase that so it goes up and down a bit faster. If we increase this to let's say 16. Now we see as it goes around in the sinusoidal way. You increase that even more to something like, let's say 50, because then your time is gonna go, my apologies for, I have bad allergies, it's allergy season, sorry. So basically, you add more time, you'll get more ups and downs per oscillation. So let's try something a little more complicated. A sawtooth wave. So a sawtooth wave, so we need to add our amplitude back into there because it's not going to be very high if it's not there. So here's our sawtooth wave. So if we start at the beginning here, we'll see as it writes, we get a sawtooth. And since they're kind of overlapping each other, they're not symmetrical like a sine wave is, so they're overlapping and creating essentially diamonds. There is a way to make it go just only display the wave going one direction, and I'll show you that in a bit. So the next math equation I have is for triangle waves. So here's a triangle wave. Pretty straightforward. Just a bunch of triangles, and if you want to reduce the amount of triangles, you just change the time multiplication factor to something. Let's go back down to 16. Here's one of my favorites. This is the square wave. It's pretty simple. It's just a wave, stops at the top and then goes back down. We can kind of see this better if we make a few more of them. So let's bring this up to I don't know, 32. And we're getting these square waves that kind of progress across the screen, going up and down. So if you want to get rid of that progression, you have to do the math a little bit different. Essentially, this math is taking 2 pi by the time, getting the cosine of that, putting essentially a top limit on it once it goes over a certain amount. This is actually what digital signals look like because they're either on or off. We can also do a bidirectional sine wave in here. You can, of course, produce a sine wave with the regular settings, but if you want to produce one in here, you can do it this way as well, which is just the same thing with just math cosine. So then we got a nice standing sine wave. Then if you want to get extra fancy, you can play around with more of these and get different patterns. This is called a cycloid. I have an idea of that. It looks like waves. You can even produce things if we want to put this into circle mode, 1, 1, you can start creating other patterns. Means we need to bring this back down to 0. You can already see the circle pattern coming up with the wave there. We're still on that wave pattern or a cycloid. If we change this just down to time, we get a pattern. This pattern, some of you might be familiar with, is called a cardioid. And say we wanted to flip this over, we could always multiply everything by -1. And then you'll get the converse, it'll flip it over. Extra fun, we can punch in the equation for a heart, which is this. Whoop, we need to move it up a bit or reduce our amplitude. Let's do that so we can see it. There we go. Or if you're feeling extra fancy, we can even play around with things, putting things together, adding if statements, other fun things you can do. You can combine a square wave with a triangle wave, and we'll see that it shoots up and then just as the ends of the triangle wave. You can get some interesting looking shapes with that, like this. Play around, have fun. There's lots of things you can do with this template. Prime's always fun to try. They create interesting patterns. Your imagination is the limit. You could make this a negative prime. And then you get all sorts of cool stuff going on there. And you could change the phase, and then it'll look like this whole thing is rotating around itself. Going back to a simple sawtooth pattern, since it's non-symmetrical, it's going back and forth, you might want to have it go the other way to be more obviously a sawtooth pattern. So make it a little shorter just so we can see that upward trending line a bit better. We can add code that tells it during its cycle essentially to only display stuff when it's going a certain direction. Make sure it's on -90, otherwise it'll just cut it off halfway through. That's it for today. I'll put all the code below this video so you can reference it, and it'll tell you what each block of code is and what it does. I'll also leave a link down there to my store, ironandwoodproductions.com/store, and you can purchase the template on there, which will be on sale for the next month after this video comes out, so you can get it at a discount and play around with it yourself. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. It helps the channel out, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.